You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going...
Another round?
Really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Hey, it's Christine with Storyworthy. Today on the show, producer-director Brian Volk-Weiss talks about how he made a toy store near you.
Just like anyone else, my parents bought me toys, and I played with the toys, and I liked the toys. And I don't think there was anything special about how I got introduced to toys. The unusual thing is that I never stopped buying them, like, ever. In college, I remember very specifically buying, for the first time ever, a toy I knew I would put on a shelf and not play with.
Today on the show, producer-director Brian Volk-Weiss talks all about how he made a toy store near you. Stay close.
Hey, it's Brian Volk-Weiss, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 11 years or you're a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week with, hold on one second. Oh, who was it? God, that's terrible, isn't it? I know who it was. It was my good friend, my new good friend, and a wonderful guy, Jeff Dwoskin, from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. Jeff Dwoskin told a really great story about being on jury duty. And the takeaway, Brian, the takeaway here is that he says, if you happen to get chosen to be on a jury, be the foreman.
Ooh.
Have you heard that before?
I haven't heard that, but I've been on one jury in my life. This is like almost 20 years ago. It was... I always say when I retire, I intend to become like a professional jurist. It was a wonderful, crazy, but wonderful experience.
Well, that's what his uptake was as well. Yeah. He felt so good about it. He became, well, now, were you the foreman of yours?
No, God, no.
He said the foreman thing was so funny because, you know, when they said, okay, who wants to like run for foreman? And he thought to himself, well, I'm here already. I'll just say I do. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, you're foreman. And he said from that second on, they truly treated him differently, like he was their leader.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I believe that.
It really made me laugh. So go back, you guys. Listen to Jeff Dwoskin. And also, do listen to Live from Detroit, the Jeff Dwoskin Show. He's a really good guy. It's another podcast I really enjoy. He turned me on and got me hooked up with Carol Baskin. Hello, with Dee Dee Pfeiffer and with Ed Begley Jr. So, you know, we're now podcast friends. Yeah, so that's working well. And anyway, you guys, but not today. Don't go anywhere today, because today I'm here with a very interesting person, a producer and a director, Brian Volk-Weiss. Volk-Weiss, there's a dash between. Is it two last names or is that one last name?
It's two last names, my mom and my dad's.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have a middle name too?
Spencer.
Spencer. Oh,
yes.
That has like a lot of, you know, to it.
There was a movie that came out, and there was a character named Spencer that my mom liked, and and then my name Brian is because of Brian's song. So my first and middle name are movies.
Oh,
because of movies.
Yeah, that is so funny from that. I don't mean to laugh about Brian's song, but see, I remember as a child when that was out, and my older sisters, and it was like such a big deal. And something happens. Brian, is he an ice skater or a hockey player? And he drops. What happens?
I've never seen it, but what I think it's about is a baseball player who dies of cancer.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad thing.
Yeah. So, but I've never seen it.
Well, that seems crazy that you have not watched your own namesake.
Well, you're only saying that because you don't know about the relationship I had with my mom. So, but that's for another podcast, one that I bet you nobody wants to listen to.
Interesting. Is it really depressing?
Well, it's not depressing, but yeah, needless to say, she was not my best friend.
Did you kill her?
I did not. I did not. Natural causes.
Oh, wow. Okay. I guess I'm just thinking that Brian's... Remember back then in the early 70s, there was a whole string of movies where there would be an athlete / victim of either cancer. There was that one about the one with the skier who's taken off in the tableau. What was the skier one?
I don't know. I was born in 76.
Okay.
So I'm not, I'm not an expert. Though I do love sports movies. I'm not into sports, but I do love sports movies.
Right. Well, Brian's song, maybe he was a football player. Do you think he was wait a minute.
I'll take your word for it or anyone's word.
It's going to bug me. And there was another one, like The Other Side of the Mountain. That was one.
Well, I'm glad my name's not Mountain.
Now, my daughter, I have one daughter. She's 14, and her name is Alabama. And that
Beautiful.
Is after what movie? You know.
Crimson Tide.
No, but True Romance from that film.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Patricia Arquette played that character, Alabama Worley.
It's an outstanding film.
It is, but she's 14, although she is actually in a film, kind of a film program at school, so she could, I don't know, it's too violent to show her that yet. It's too much. And then for her to think like that's what she's named after, that girl bloody in the bathtub. I mean, it's not.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Oh,
yeah.
God. Yeah. That's
no,
much.
I always wanted to name my kids with a unifying theme.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I thought it was going to be city names.
Yeah.
So we almost did what you did, even though I know Alabama is a state.
What did you name your children?
Washington, Grant, and Truman.
You did not.
I did.
I love those names.
Thank you. All jokes aside, you know, it's funny. I lied to you already, so I'm sorry for that. When I said, thank God my name's not Mountain, I actually wish my name was Mountain because there's too many Brians. The best story I could tell you about that is I have a quarterly conference call with a company. There's usually 11 people on the call. Of the 11, 5 are always Brians.
Oh, my God. That's bizarre.
So your daughter's very lucky.
That's bizarre. It must have just been that chunk of time, right? There's also there's a lot of Matts. Have you noticed that? A lot of Matts.
A lot of Matts, a lot of Mikes, and a lot of Bryans, and a lot of Jennifers.
Yeah. Spencer is very unique. But that being said, I still think I like Brian better because Spencer, it just sounds, it sounds so, soap opera.
Okay.
Spencer, he just came to town. He just came through town.
Well, I love that. No, I didn't. The Rock's character in Jumanji is Spencer. Yeah. So whenever I hear Spencer now, that's what pops not only in my head, but my kid's head too.
Oh, that's fun. It's fun being a parent, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I was saying a little earlier before we started recording that your kids, because you do, you have, okay, so for my audience, okay, yes, you are a producer and a director, but you also have a huge affinity with toys, okay? So, like right now I can see you, my audience can't see you, but you've got a ton of action figures behind you. Did you say 3,000?
I broke 3,000 2 months ago. Yeah. This is not healthy, by the way, so I don't want anybody listening thinking I'm bragging about this. It's I'm getting a little worried.
Are they all in one room?
Yeah. So what you see behind me, it's other than the door, which even has stuff on it, it's 360.
Wow. It's all the way around you. Yeah. And do you spend a lot of time in there then? I mean, is that your office?
Before COVID, I was probably in here 5 to 8 hours a week. Up until about 3 months ago, I mean, I was in here 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. To the point where I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
It's too much.
For sure. But however, yeah, no, we're all excited to be out and about and being social again. However, wasn't it nice to be with your kids?
It was the greatest blessing.
It's unbelievable.
Anybody could. I mean, last 2020 in particular, I mean, I saw my kids every single day for 7.5 months straight.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
You really see them grow.
Yeah, but I mean, I typically fly 4 to 8 times a month, and to go 7.5 months and see your kids every single day.
Don't hit your table.
Oh, sorry. So you would think I would know that. I never in a billion years thought I would have a blessing like that.
Aw. Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, the fact that we're just the whole idea that we're living through a pandemic is so ridiculous. I mean, the fact that this is going to be in history books. First, we thought it'd be, it blew our minds to think that children are going to have to read about Trump. Like, children are going to have to read about that in our history. January 6th, the insurrection, 2 impeachments, the Supreme Court justices, all of it. Everything. They're going to have to read about that. And then they're going to have to read about the great pandemic of 2020.
If I can give you a silver lining.
Please.
The Spanish flu was going on simultaneous with the final 6 months, and much more importantly, because this would lead directly to World War II, the peace process of World War I. So as bad as it is now, that was way worse. Again, nothing's worse than the Capitol insurrection.
I'm not quite sure I'm understanding, though, what you're saying. So in other words, you're saying it was the end of the war, or it was during the war.
It was literally the last 6 months of the war. The Spanish flu was going on simultaneously. And then, and this, like I said, led directly to World War II. Wilson was in Vienna negotiating the peace treaty and got the Spanish flu. Wow. And if you look at what he was there for 2 weeks, the first week he was fine. The second week he had the Spanish flu. Like, everything that happened after World War II with the United Nations, with the WTO, with the beginning of the EU, all of that probably would have and should have happened after World War I had Wilson not gotten the Spanish flu.
Wow. That's so
it's not
interesting.
100%, but it's probably 80% likely.
Yeah. Were you a big history buff in school?
My grandfather came here from Austria, and I grew up listening to his stories. And I've basically been a history buff probably since I was 8 or 9.
Wow. And do you have any little sisters?
I don't. Unfortunately, I'm an only child.
So, oh, wow. I have an only child now, but I come from one of 6. And my brother used to make me go. Okay, he'd go into his bedroom, he'd shut the door, and then he would sit on my stomach and read from Civil War books until I could recite facts back, So, Sherman marched into Atlanta. Gettysburg killed 15,000 people in one day. So all these facts. And then if I would listen to him, it'd be like a 15-minute thing, which felt like forever. Then he'd give me ice cream because he had a paper route where he got money to get ice cream. And then he would do that to me and my other sister. He would make us listen to Civil War facts. And he's still so into history. And I find I end up doing a lot of facts too. Like, I've been up at my friend's house in San Francisco a lot recently, and I'll walk, she's in the Bay Area, and I'll be looking, at the bay and the tracks, and I'll think, where did those tracks go? What's on the other side of this bay? You're like looking at topography, thinking about what was here before. So I guess I do have that sort of mind. But are you constantly thinking about facts and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big useless fact collector. So, and I'm a huge, as we said, history buff.
Yeah. Well, I find myself now just picking up my phone and saying, what's the current population of Melbourne? Or whatever I'm looking for. Like, everything is so accessible. So let's just find out right now. Here we go. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, I'll surf Wikipedia for 2 hours straight, and my last topic will have more than nothing to do with my first topic. I love doing that.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah. Well, I think they used to call it a nerd, and now
I still call it a nerd. It's okay to be a nerd now. That's what's changed.
All right. So you bring forth the topic today: a toy store near you.
Yes,
and that is out now.
So 3 seasons have aired on Amazon.
Okay.
Season 4 comes out Christmas Day.
Oh my God, that's so exciting. Wow, that's so exciting. So, and this also, you have another show on Netflix, and you're in the 4th season there, and that's called...
3rd season.
3rd. I thought you just started the 4th.
So there's 2 shows about toys. One is called A Toy Store Near You. That's on Amazon.
Yes.
And then there's The Toys That Made Us. That's on Netflix.
That's fantastic. And then you also did The Movies That Made Us.
Yes, that's the spin-off of Toys That Made Us.
Yeah. The Toys That Made Us, so that came first, as it were, right?
Correct.
About toys,
yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about, just real quick, I mean, I know, not real quick. I'm excited to talk to you. But I want to get to, your actual story as well. But how did toys come into your life so strongly?
It really is nothing special about how they came into my life. Just like anyone else, my parents bought me toys, and I played with the toys, and I liked the toys. The 2 variables that I think are different, one is I was born, like I said, in 1976, so I was the perfect age to not really understand that Star Wars was a movie. If you look at what I would say to my mom and everything, I didn't know what this word meant, but I basically thought it was like a documentary. So I was like, I want to join the rebellion. So I think I may have had a closer relationship to my toys than had I been born a year or 2 earlier. That was the first thing. But the second thing is, go ahead, please.
And that you were an only child. I mean, so your toys were very important.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. I should have started with that, actually. But then the second thing is, like I said, I don't think there was anything special about how I got introduced to toys. I think the weird thing is, or the unusual thing is, that, I never stopped buying them, ever. So even in college, I remember very specifically buying for the first time ever a toy I knew I would put on a shelf and not play with. And I've been doing that ever since.
I think that is so awesome. I love it. I mean, it's a sense of, childhood, and it keeps things fun. I mean, I always thought that, one of the things about having a child is that you get to kind of relive childhood. You get to go through all those steps again. And, somebody once said, if you don't have a child, when are you ever going to get a Frisbee off the roof?
I like that.
It's simple. But toys are another thing. And I know, I'm a huge game player. I like games. You quantify games as toys, yes?
It's they're like cousins.
I know. It's different because you're talking about, behind you there, all these little physical little dolls, as it were. Games are more like, the square boxes stacked up.
That's right. Exactly.
But that being said, I'm a huge Monopoly fan. I always have been.
Oh, I love Monopoly.
Oh, good.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite game. Yeah.
Well, some people hate Monopoly. I don't know. I don't know.
It's probably because they lose a lot.
I know, right? And I want my daughter to play well. That's for sure. I'm always teaching her, Bama, I'm telling you, property is more important than houses. And forget the utilities. Just pass it by. Get the deeds.
That's right. Yeah, no, unfortunately, my daughter has figured that out all too well. I have trouble beating her now.
Oh, that's so fun. That's a fun thing to do over Christmas. Well, how about when the pandemic first started, we all thought, we'll build a puzzle. And by the time this puzzle's over, we'll all be back to work.
Yes. I'm not a puzzle guy, but my wife and daughter, my wife would do a puzzle. I mean, as soon as she finished one, she would start. She's doing a puzzle right now. It must be 4,000 or 5,000 pieces.
Get out
Like,
of here.
cover the whole kitchen, dining room table puzzle.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's insane. I've
It
never
is.
done more than 1,000 pieces. 1,000 is enough. I mean, 1,000 pieces is at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's if I have like time to sit down at night. Usually at night while we're watching television, I do, I like to do something with my hands, as it were. I think that's, like if it's not that, it's crafting. I think that's why like women or other people, and people knit or crochet. It's just basically moving your hands,
You definitely have that in common with my wife. She always doing something while she watches.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it's a bad thing.
No downside.
All right, you guys, listen, before we get over to Brian's story, I did want to remind you that we are playing Story Smash, the storytelling game show. We're back on Saturday, January 22nd. Now, I know that I said we're on New Year's Eve, but guess what? The Improv says no. They said they're only doing dinner package deals on New Year's Eve, and so we're not there. How about that? But we are back on Saturday, January 22nd, and that'll be the third Saturday of each month. So you can follow Story Smash over on Instagram at Story Smash. That's where I put all the show photos. That's where the action is. And also you can check out updates over at the website storysmashshow.com. All right, you guys, he's here right now. You've heard him talking, creator and producer and director. Hold on one second. My daughter just texted me. Hey, on Friday, can I go home with Ian? Meh. Here it comes again. Maybe we can take Oliver to school. Meh. That's the thing. When these kids get a little older, Brian, here's what happens. It all turns around to driving. They're done learning from you pretty much. And now it's just chauffeuring. And it's to take them from one house to another house, because especially in LA, it's not like I'm just going to let her out the door. I can't. So I do have to take her around, but,
I'm in no rush to get texts like that.
Yeah, I hear you. Anyway, I'll figure that out in a little bit. Meantime, like I said, you guys, producer and director Brian Volk-Weiss, he's not only produced stand-up specials, which, by the way, we didn't even touch upon that earlier. You have produced so many stand-up specials in your company, with your company, Comedy Dynamics, that you started Comedy Dynamics. I don't know, so I'm going to say 12 years ago. Tell me.
It's 2008.
How many is that? 12?
I think 13.
Yeah, so there you go.
So you were close.
I'm close.
Very close.
ComedyDynamics.com, you guys. You can find out more about that over there. But boy, oh boy, you really do have an incredible list of people that have... Now, just to be clear, Comedy Dynamics, they are distributors or producers?
Both. We make the specials, we sell or license the specials, and then the way it works is like we just announced we have a Gary Owen special coming out next week. That special will be on Showtime for a couple years, then we get the rights back, and then we will self-distribute that everywhere else.
I see. So the comedian gets more of the money now.
That is an understatement.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I'm glad I figured that out by myself. I'm working on my first album, and it's called Dear Alabama.
I like it.
And it is, it's all this advice to my child.
I look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, you're going to love it. But yeah, like I said, you've done so many. And there's comedians, big comedians like Tiffany Haddish and Jim Gaffigan and Ali Wong, Ilana Glazer. Is that how she says it? Ilana?
It is. Ilana.
It is Ilana Glazer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. I think that's all very, very impressive. But then, like you said, in addition, you've created this great show, The Toys That Made Us. And basically, Netflix's show, The Toys That Made Us, there's 3 seasons now. And they go to different toy shops in different cities, and it's like every city does.
And I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, Christine, but I know it's confusing. The toy shops one, that's Amazon, a toy store near you.
Oh, God
Toys
damn
that
it.
made us. No. It's confusing. There's
Yeah.
no other company that makes shows like this, and we're making two. So it's
Yeah.
very confusing.
Yeah.
But Toys That Made Us is about the history. Each episode is about the history of one toy.
I see. Okay, now that I haven't looked at yet. I was looking on YouTube at all these different toy shops all over
Yes.
America. And
That's a
it's
toy store near you.
Yeah, a toy store near you. It's so charming. I'm so excited about that show because it's like every toy store is so interesting. You know, I watched the one with a great store in Portland, and you know, every city. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I know there's a great one there in Squirrel Hill. And every time you see one of those stores, it's like a respite. You know, like
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go in there because I can easily kill an hour.
That's right. Yeah. I say the best of these stores, they're like a museum where you can buy things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. I just love it. And so then we've also got the movies that made us. And how did that come to fruition?
So we did Toys That Made Us. Netflix was very happy with it. They asked me to pitch spin-offs. We pitched Games That Made Us and Movies That Made Us. And they went for Movies That Made Us.
So that's interesting. Now, do you think you'll go back to them with Games That Made Us? I mean, because why not? That makes all the sense in the world. Like,
I do.
Let me ask you, might they change their mind, or because there's so much transition in these companies, right? So somebody, next thing you know, she's out of there, new person's in, and they like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I bring it up about once a quarter. So and you're right. Everything you just said is completely right. Netflix has more stability than most. So it's not about having to wait for people to change jobs, but the audience, that's the main variable. Like, is the audience, or does Netflix perceive the audience to want it?
Yeah. Is it the time for it?
Exactly.
I know that Toys That Made Us took 7 years to sell. I heard you say that somewhere.
That is accurate. 7 years. We came close a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that. I have this game show, Story Smash, that I've been working on for 11 years. And it's the same idea. It's just a brilliant, simple idea. And we have so much fun at the Improv. But it's just, you know, I don't know. I guess it's just timing. I think timing is a lot of it, right?
It's everything. You know, a big part of my job is selling shows. So the way I look at that, what we're talking about right now, I always envision the marketplace to be a spinning wheel of keyholes. And the show that I'm trying to sell is a key. And it's all about the timing of, like, when I'm trying to put the key out and with them rotating, getting it in. So it's not a matter of, is this a show that's good or bad? Usually it's a matter of, is my timing right when I take it to market? And I know that to be accurate because I've sold many shows long after the initial pitch, like years later.
It's so interesting. Yeah. It's basically, you know, you have this key and either the door is correct or it is not correct. So you can keep jamming this key. And even if it's a good key, if it's not to the right apartment, you're never going to get in.
That's exactly right.
Wow. That's really smart. Because, you know, Story Smash, you know, my game, I keep coming back to my game show. It is so perfect. It's perfect. It's a perfect show with low production and low production cost. And it seems so simple. It seems so obvious. But it has to be at the right time.
That's right.
It's very interesting.
Well,
You
what
guys-
happened in... Oh, sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
no. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say to your point is, I've taken shows out to market, 10 meetings, all passes. And then 6 months, a year, 3 years later, I'm in a meeting or a dinner or a breakfast, and we're looking for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then the thing I was pitching that didn't sell all of a sudden sells.
Yeah, you have that in your quiver. I get it. It's never personal. It's all just
That's right.
what's going on, where we are. And when you think about, like, when Netflix picked up Tiger King and how then the pandemic hit, it was like a perfect combination.
It's exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know if that's why they picked it up or it was already going, but there's something about that correlation is why that show just went crazy.
Timing is everything, as cheesy as it is.
You are also the founder and current CEO of the Nacelle Company, Nacelle. Nacelle?
Nacelle. It's a French word.
Nacelle. What does it mean?
I love when people ask that, and very few people do. So thank you. You see that?
Yeah, it's a spaceship.
Well, no, that specific piece I'm pointing at. The thing. Yeah, that's a nacelle.
A nacelle, which it's a toy.
It's not a toy. A nacelle is the actual device that holds an engine onto a vehicle. So if you're looking at an airplane and the engine on the wing, it looks, beautiful, like the engine is a part of the wing. But the engine is not beautiful. It's this giant 8-foot-long thing of pipes and tubes that comes out of the nacelle when they have to repair it. So the nacelle is what holds it on to the plane or the boat or the helicopter or the spaceship.
Wow. So what we're talking about, folks, is like basically, okay, look behind your TV and you see all those cords. It looks like shit. So what you do is you get yourself one of those like cord covers and it covers all the cords and makes it look better. And that is a nacelle for engine mounts or for engines and they're mounted on a nacelle.
Yeah, pretty much. That's right.
Deep. That is deep.
But what it really is a dog whistle for nerds. So if you're not a nerd, it's like, oh, all right, whatever. But if you are a nerd, you're like, oh, I bet that's a company that makes a lot of nerd shit.
Wow. I love it. The Nacelle Company. I love it. It's, I don't know though, the Nacelle Company, because it's so, it could be anything. It could be an insurance company. It could be a pack of lawyers. Do they call them a pack?
I don't know. I have a lot of bad jokes I can make right now, but I will refrain from because I talk to those lovely people every day.
Yeah, I bet. You guys can find Brian over there on Instagram. You've got some sweet photos over there of your family. Instagram.com/Brian Volk-Weiss. All right, you guys, we're going to hear a story right now. Wherever you are, put your hands together for Brian Volk-Weiss.
I don't know if you heard, but there's a global pandemic going around. And I was paying attention to it as it was spreading across China, but it was really when South Korea started shutting down when I was like, oh, this is coming here. So this is about March of 2020. I'm in one of my local toy stores in Burbank, vintage toy stores, and I'm talking to the owner. And, as you know, no one alive practically has dealt with a quarantine, a lockdown. We don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm talking to the owner, and we know LA and California and most of the country is going to be locking down like Friday night. And I'm talking to him on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And I said to him, I'm like, well, let me ask you something. What happens with a lockdown? And he said, he thought about it for half a second. And then he goes, well, I think my costs stay fixed, but my income goes to zero. I was like, oh, well, that sounds really bad. That sounds like a great way for like all my favorite toy stores to go out of business. So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, I own a production company. iPhones are more powerful than most people understand. So I called up the store in Portland, Billy Galaxy. Billy is a very old, good friend of mine. And I said to him, I go, Billy, if I email you things I need you to shoot, film, and do and say, can you shoot it all yourself and then we'll edit it together? He was like, yeah, I think we could do that. So that's how it started. I sent him an email. He shot all these things we asked him to do. We edited it together into like, a 25-minute show. We gave him notes. He shot more stuff. And then that is what we sent to all the other toy stores. And they started doing the same thing. And we put out as of now, 10 a year, 10 episodes a year.
That is so smart.
And the reason we did this was for two reasons. One, the majority of the money goes to the stores. And two, it just got a lot of exposure for the stores too, which it's not my place to say this, but I've heard this from many stores. A lot of I don't think there's any stores saying we save them. And these stores, they save themselves. But all the stores give us a lot of credit for getting their exposure and their online sales going. And my favorite part of the story, one of my favorite things in my entire career, is there are now two stores, one in Maine and one in Arkansas, that say our show inspired them to quit 20-year jobs and open their own toy stores.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I can't tell you how happy that makes me.
Yeah, because it's people actually, going for their passions.
Yeah.
Rather than the paychecks.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. The stores are always, they're always really comforting to go into a game store. Yeah, they really are. But you do think about God, how could they possibly make enough money? I mean, how many games do you have to sell a day? The overhead. Okay, so a game of Monopoly costs me $12 to sell. I could sell it for $25, $13 profit, but then I have to sell a lot of Monopoly.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something really interesting. When we were in between season 1 and season 2 last year, so this would have been between March and July, every store we talked to was pretty sure they were going to go out of business.
Yeah.
By August, September, every store was saying, we are having the best year in the history of our store.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, to be clear, that's not because of our show. It's because, and this is my theory, I could be wrong, but it's because the store, basically everybody freaked out when COVID hit and stopped spending money, and they stopped going on vacations and they stopped going to restaurants. I mean, after 6 months, everybody had more money in the bank than they ever had because they weren't going on vacations and going to restaurants.
Right.
So people started buying online massively from these vintage toy stores.
That's such an incredible windfall that nobody obviously saw coming. I remember my girlfriend told me there was a puzzle shortage.
Yeah. They couldn't make them fast enough. That's what happened.
That's incredible. It's a really funny thing. So did all these toy stores did they also ship their products? They must have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about seasons 1 through 4. Of the 20 stores, 19 ship.
Yeah, that's great. And so who had the idea to say to them, hey, could you flip your phone around and make a video like this? Who had that idea?
Me.
It is so flippin' smart, Brian.
I don't know about that. But
wait a minute. What are you talking about, man? You basically put the entire production day in somebody else's hands. So you didn't have to hire gaffers. You didn't hire a crew or a DP. You didn't hire anybody. You said, you make the video, make it look good enough so I can use it. Then you'll get the on-air acknowledgement and I'll have content.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something mind-blowing. We have conservatively been sent probably 250 hours of footage.
Wow.
I think we have had technical problems with half an hour of 250
Total.
Hours.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Well, again, like you said, the iPhone, has more technology than they say when we put a man on the moon.
It's a staggeringly capable device. And, one of the other things worth mentioning is season 2 and 3 of Movies That Made Us were shot with, they weren't shot with iPhones by any stretch of the imagination, but they were shot with remote kits that we built during the pandemic that we were shipping all over the country.
Wow.
And actually the world.
How much
we still
did those
have them.
weigh? How much was a remote kit? 47 pounds.
No, it wasn't that bad.
32 pounds.
I mean, it was a big box because it had a lot of
stands,
a lot of padding.
Yeah.
Well, it was 2 cameras, 2 recording devices, 2 hard drives, and a light kit, and then all the cabling.
Yep. That's a lot.
And yeah, and we would have to, you know, these things were being FedExed 5 shoots at a time before they came back to us, so they were getting beat up a lot. So they had to be these big boxes. My guess is they weighed 15 to 20 pounds.
I'm so impressed.
That's crazy.
I really am. Yeah, I got some nice lights called, it's funny, I've actually see it a lot now. They're called, there's a big letters on the back. It says GVS. And all it stands for is Great Video System. Like, it's so cheesy.
Ooh, that's brilliant. I love that.
But nonetheless, there are these really, really nice lights because I did Story Smash, my game show, from my house all through the pandemic, which is available on YouTube, guys. Go over to YouTube, look for Story Smash. I think there's like 32 episodes on there. But I got this light kit, right? GVS. And for both lights, it was like $190. And they come with, you know, of course, the tripods, etc. And, you know, they're like 72 LED lights, and there's 2 knobs that you can change the warmth and the whatever. Anyway, my daughter's father was over, and he's a gaffer, and he looked at the lights and he goes, "Oh my God, how much were those lights?" And I said, like $180. He goes, "When I was gaffing, 20 years ago, that was a $2,500 kit."
At least. Yeah, at least.
Isn't that crazy? Like, that's another product that boomed during the pandemic. All these lighting companies and different people, green screen companies or whatever, people all of a sudden on camera and, recording pretty much daily.
If the pandemic had hit 5 years earlier, maybe even 4 years earlier, we couldn't have done any of this.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm really impressed at the programs you've come up with. And but by the way, before we leave, I also heard you on another show, and you said that you are equally as interested in your failures as your successes.
If I said that, that's wrong. What I wanted to say and should have said was I'm way more interested in my failures than my successes. Wow. My successes, the minute they happen, within reason, I stop thinking about them. Yeah. My failures, I read books, about failure all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm very fascinated by failure.
Yeah. It is interesting because it's almost like, to really, really pull it down to a simple example. It's like, let's say you really want these nice pants, and you've been looking at these pants for a long time, and then you finally get the pants. And the next day, you move on. I really want this blouse. I really, really want this blouse. In other words, it's like, did it. Next. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now, I also heard you on another show talking about a horror film that you made that was like a long, long time ago, and things went terribly wrong, and it kind of made you realize that, you can't get cocky about anything because
that's right. Things
can get really bad. I know we don't have a lot of time here, but can you just tell me, because it just sounds funny, to make a horror movie and everything goes wrong. Like, that sounds like a funny movie.
It was 2013. The movie is called 8989 Redstone.
It was an address.
That's right. You've seen it.
No,
You're the one. Cliched, I know. But no, it's the only thing I've ever lost money on. And it was a great, I literally took our crew that makes stand-up specials and we made a horror movie. It was like the wrap gift was a T-shirt that on the front said 8989 Redstone, and on the back said World's Worst Stand-Up Special. But, it was a kind of crappy script that we actually made worse with pickups. In fact, if you read most of the reviews say the movie's good until blank, and the blank is not only what we picked up in post, but added another 25% to the budget.
Oh, shit.
So if we had not done the pickups, I think it would be liked more, and I would have saved a lot of money.
And so what went wrong with the pickups? Did they just not look good? Did too much time pass? What happened?
The movie looks fine. The pickups look fine. It was a bad script that...
Who wrote it?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter for a bunch of reasons. One, it's not fair to the writer because he was put in such ridiculous... I mean, it was basically like, yo, here's the idea. Can you write this in 2 weeks? He was like, I could put words on a page in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, perfect. So he turned in a first draft thinking, I don't know, maybe we'd work on it for a couple months. And we shot it a month later.
Oh, my God.
And he's still a screenwriter, so I don't want to say anything that affects his career in any way. Because if it was his fault, believe me, I'd throw him under the bus. But it was my fault. To me. Yes, I'm dead to me. But so it's
well, it's hard for a writer in general because even if you put it on the page, even if you write it, even if it is perfect, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to shoot.
That's right.
And that certainly doesn't mean that's what they're going to edit. I mean, there's a whole other process that comes in. And then let's say they shot it poorly or the color doesn't work or whatever, then they got to take that out. So there's so many things that have to happen, especially if it's a film in terms of the writer being out of the picture. Whereas TV, they say, of course, the writer is more in use the whole time.
Yeah. And to your point, we also kind of changed what the movie was about while we were editing. So, again, we didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. Everybody else kind of knew what they were doing. But,
yeah, that's tough.
It did not go well. But I did learn a lot.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's interesting. I have had, obviously, a lot of failures. However, I still have hope for things, Like I've got this brilliant new podcast idea that I've been trying to get out, but it involves music. And music licensing is impossible. And a lot of podcasters just steal music and they just play it. And I don't know how they don't get caught or feel bad or whatever, but I can't quite do that. So I am thinking about using Spotify. But the thing is, Spotify has this deal that you can use their music, but then it only plays on Spotify. So then the show's not available on Apple Podcasts. So your audience goes way down. And for the Spotify members, if you're not a premium member, you only hear 30 seconds of the song. It's not the 30 seconds I choose either. It's just 30 seconds.
I
know. So my show is so brilliant, but it could either be 6 minutes in length or 40 minutes in length, depending on if they play the songs.
It's a big gap.
It's a big gap. And now we're talking about, this song that means so much. And now it's not even going to go out to Apple or Google. It's only going to be on Spotify and only to their premium listeners. And so it gets cut down so much. I feel like I would be making it for 20 people.
Keep fighting.
If I was lucky.
It's not impossible.
Yeah. No, I'm working on it. And I really hope to get a deal with, Sirius. That's somebody that does have that licensing. Whatever. The point is that, it can be done, but I know that there's a time and a place it's going to happen. I don't want to just make it anyway because it's not, why try to push something and then it's illegal and then somebody could take it all down.
You're 100% right. Yeah, good for you for knowing that up front because it's
not
heartbreaking.
Worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it
happens.
Yet. Not yet, but it's there.
That day will come.
The day will come. Hey, listen, this has been really fun. I'm just so happy
same.
to talk to you. You are a really interesting person. And
Very
everything
kind.
about toys makes me happy.
We have that in common as well.
I think everybody else, too. I mean, nobody's going to say, I hate toys. I mean, except that one Christmas special with that crazy grouchy man who doesn't want toys. Toys! No toys! That guy. Other than that, everybody loves toys. And you can find out, you guys, a lot more out about Brian over at his website, brianvolkweiss.com. And also find him on Insta at Brian Volk-Weiss. Of course, follow me over there as well at Storyworthy, and check out Story Smash on Instagram at Story Smash. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Brian Volk-Weiss. Thank you, friend.
Thank you. This was fun.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Caregivers, are you and the person you care for not satisfied with your current home care agency? Then you need to call Help at Home, as we offer the highest paid wages, weekly pay, overtime pay, benefits, and do not forget paid time off. Help at Home is actively recruiting caregivers who are caring for a loved one. We make changing agencies quick and easy. Call one of our care professionals now at 412-784-6711. That's 412-784-6711, or go to helpathomepA.com.